What's the name of your podcast and what's the topic of discussion?
Well, so I guess the big thing that I kind of kept coming back to is that one of the dramas that I've got is that my name is within the industry is still only recognisable to the people who know me. So when I sat down and did my business plan for not just the podcast but for my RTO, I was like, all right, well, I've got to start using my name more, which I'm almost allergic to, right? So I was like, my God, what do I go with? Do I go with the Clint Hill experience? Do I go with, whatever? So the thing for me is my life's been a massive experiment. So I went with the Hill experiment.
Hey, I like that.
So, yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because for me, I think realistically, everything that I've done in my career and in my life has been exactly that. I've had a theory, gone through a bit of research, decided why I'm going to do something, had a crack at it, it's either fucked up and turned into an absolute disaster, or the opposite, and it's now part of the staple part of what I do every day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a resource for your students?
Okay, yes and no. I still want to have some fucking fun, right? Like,
it's important.
Yeah, man. Like, I guess, and off air we were just quickly chatting, and I was filling you two in with the fact that I've recently become single, split up with my fiance, and from there I've also realised that one of the things that I let myself down on is that I forgot to have enough fun. And whether that was...
You're talking about during that relationship?
Yeah. Well, during... No. Not during the whole relationship. I shouldn't...
Right.
She's a great chick, so I'm certainly not going to hammer her on that one. But just in the last few months of it, I let myself down in not doing the stuff that I love doing. And that kind of comes back to the fact that, when you're too focused on something that isn't part of your end game, then you really don't know what direction you're travelling in, and you're just clutching at straws to get yourself through each day or each week or each month. So for me, the podcast is a huge part of enjoying my life, getting people that I want to fucking speak to, and having a chance to put them out there in the world as well. So yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a funny type of media because it's really allowed people to do that, right? Like,
hell yeah.
To actually just have a good time. And I think Joe Rogan has really, with the booze and smoking joints and all that, made people around the world realise, it's okay to get a bit loose and have a good time and say whatever the fuck you want.
Mate, especially in health and fitness. Like, let's cut the shit. Like, one of the biggest dramas, and again, as I said to you both off air, one of the reasons that I wrote a PT course or a Cert 3 and Cert 4 in personal training is because I'd been such a heavy critic of the fitness industry for so long that I was actually part of the problem, not part of the solution. Now, this comes down to also your podcast. Dude, I definitely get on the piss. I love a beer more than most blokes, right? But the very clear thing is that's never been allowed in the fitness industry, and finally it's starting to be, right?
Yeah.
So that open nature or that truthful authenticity is actually starting to really come through, and you guys practice and preach that stuff, so I'm not going to sit here and say anything but that. But
you saw our photo of the director's meet at Electric Gardens.
Big dog's got to eat. Okay? So yeah,
that's cool, man.
We're already rolled up, but let's just give the people a little intro.
Yep.
This is Ep 28. Anyhow, we got Clint Hill here. Joey T couldn't join us unfortunately today, and our topic for today is.
Topic today is stronger is better.
Hell yes.
Why strength is important and how do we get more of it?
Good.
Special guest Clint Hill. Do you want to tell the people roughly who you are?
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. So I guess 23-year veteran of this industry. I have a double master's degree in human biomechanics and strength and conditioning. I'm an ASCA Level 3 professional coach. ASCA lecturer, that's Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, for the listeners who don't know what that is.
I didn't know neither.
There you go. And I guess the key part to what I do is I've gone through the world of professional sport as firstly as a player, then into an S&C coach, and then from there have come out the back end, gone into semi-professional, then gone into individual coaching, and now spend most of my time mentoring young PTs and hopefully improving this industry that I love so passionately.
So cool.
It's cool, man.
Thank you.
It's a deep journey.
Hell yeah.
I met Clint when I first started working at Anytime Fitness in Surrey Hills.
Yeah.
Clint was the boss. He was the PT manager. And I was the only other PT there.
You were at that stage.
Kind of, hey.
Yeah. Oh, there was a couple of little floaters.
Yeah. But yeah, that was really cool. I think I worked there for, I don't know how long it was, maybe a year and a bit or something.
So.
But yeah, it was cool. It was cool getting to know you and I mean, it wasn't long before you were out of there either, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The interesting world of health and fitness is you take opportunities that come to you, but you have to do a really basic needs analysis or a SWOT analysis, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the program. But for me, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, which is your SWOT, are a huge part of how you make a decision around staying in a particular gym, moving, taking an opportunity, taking a risk, whatever it happens to be. So I did that at that point in time and took the jump to 98 Riley Street.
That's right.
Where I was for a few years before the former owner of Fitness First came and strangled me out of there and took me to another gym in Potts Point. And then from there, I've crash landed in the wonderful world of Lift Performance Centre. Big shout out to Coach Cato, who is the owner and chief in control.
Good gym that
of
one.
Lift. Yeah. So Joey does a little bit of training out of there when he wants to lift. So yeah. But I think, from a career perspective for me and for a little tip for anyone out there, whenever what looks to be an amazing opportunity arises in your career, take stock, take one or two really good people by your side and make sure the advice that they give you is sound, but also make sure that you're really comfortable with your decision about where you want to work, because it can shape your career. It can change the type of training you do, and it certainly can change the type of education you receive. So think about those things heavily before you jump ship.
So that's been, so I guess you're talking to the PT or the fitness professionals there. Is that from where here at JB's, right, we're sort of in a little bit of it's kind of a bit of an island. We're a bit separate from that scene.
Yep.
Which is cool, but it all, the impression I get of the conventional personal trainer approach out there is it's a pretty fucking tough environment to thrive in, right?
Look, hell yeah. They and you'll hear me use the terms commercial and alternative as two different types of gyms. And for me, the type of facility that you have can put you on an island, and in this particular case, you guys are on a wonderful little deserted island with a couple of cool little palm trees. Okay, so for me,
a couple of islanders.
Yeah,
I'm the white guy that doesn't know how to get the coconut.
Token white kid. So it's definitely something that you need to understand. Is clear in the sense that you need to know what your facility is about, but also probably acknowledge what's happening out there in the rest of the world. And the commercial gym world is still a messed up little unit. I had a fantastic chat to a young girl yesterday who'll be coming into my mentorship. She is a PT down at Sylvania Fitness First, which strangely enough is one of the gyms that I've worked at over the past 20 odd years. And she's 2 years in, is absolutely obsessed with the idea of fitness and strength and conditioning and whatnot, but just has no one down there to give her the direction that she requires. So the commercial gym world is this dog eat dog. People look at each other, are happy to cut off their nose to spite their face. They don't want to ever admit that they don't know something because that shows weakness and all that kind of crap. And it's just, as I said before, one of the reasons that I wanted to help the fitness industry is because I believe that you should be able to make a mistake. You should be able to say, hey, hand up here, I don't know what the fuck the answer to this question is, right? So, And I think in especially those Fitness First and some of those big commercial gyms, there's no room for error.
Yes.
You know, it's you lose a client because you make that mistake.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, there ends up being quite a facade amongst coaches and stuff, doesn't there?
Just check out social media for any of your wonderful facades. I watched a fantastic video this morning. I actually almost fell over laughing. Where
Here we go.
I know a particular guy and I know this dude really, really well. I'd watched him his foray in Europe for the last few months, and he'd been having a monumentally good time. Let's just and I've just put that in inverted commas, quote unquote. And then to back that up, he made some ridiculous claims about he didn't do something to make sure that his body was in peak condition for something that he was about to do. And it was like, dude, you've just taken every drug known to man for the last 4 months, and now you're fucking telling me that you're preaching to the choir about you've now just taken this supplement and it's solved all of your woes. Like, come on, man! Like, stop being a full social media influencer and show some authenticity.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's true, right? I remember working as some advice I got from someone when I started coaching was
probably me.
And it could have, but I know it wasn't you. This one,
sure.
But it was, don't ever let your clients see you eating food that is not like perfectly healthy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like,
okay, that was definitely not me.
Yeah. Remember we were at Macca's that time?
Yeah, that's right.
But I was like, yeah, that makes sense, man. Got it. Thanks for the advice. And then I thought about it afterwards, and I'm like, that's fucked. Like, it's because that's not what it is.
Come on, man.
It's not about that, right?
Yeah. Like off air, we said, definitely, one of the things that I certainly preach is that, mate, it's Friday. I'm looking forward to a beer at 5 o'clock. I can't wait,
Yeah.
That's life. Like, I want balance. I want this ever elusive bullshit balance work life that occurs. For me, it's about showing my truth, and mine is that I don't want to rock around at 12% body fat. I want to eat the chocky cake and train the house down and enjoy my life and still sting a beer of every possible opportunity.
Yeah, totally, and be in good shape, right?
Sure,
you can have it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's it sort of makes me think. I think that's always been a strong suit for us, and I know that a lot of other gym owners. I know a few other gym owners that do this, but they when the Christmas party comes around, they really give it a nudge.
Yeah,
and I think that's super important. And I know that for us, that's always been like a very welcomed part of what we do as business owners here.
Yep.
Because we get fucked up at least that one time per
Sure.
year with everyone, and they're like, oh, okay, like. So these guys aren't just like whatever, fitness Poindexters that have never been to a nightclub or whatever the fuck, right? Like everyone's doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Man, I wanted to talking about this strength idea, and I guess one of the things I was thinking about is in the how strength is relevant to the everyday person.
Sure.
And most people don't know what it is, and so. Maybe you could just start by, you mentioned that you are a strength conditioning coach.
Yes.
What do you do?
All right. I guess the first point that I'd like to make is there's two words in that: strength and conditioning. Now that's 3 words.
Just 3 words.
But strength / conditioning are the two elements, right? Now, whether you call that a 50-50 relationship or whatever it happens to be, it comes down to what your sport is. So the first point or the first part of this discussion should be around what a strength and conditioning coach is, which is the question you've asked, and realistically what a strength and conditioning coach does, as opposed to a PT per se, is that the idea behind the way we program is based off of a clear periodization plan. Okay, so someone comes to us with a 12, 18-month, 2-year, 3-year goal, whether that be a rugby season, a soccer season, whatever it happens to be. So it's a clear mapped out diagram between point A and point B. Okay, so the strength and conditioning coach's role is to then break that down into bite-sized chunks that might be month-based, might be 3-month-based, doesn't matter. Okay, there's individual reasons why you would do both. Now, those chunks should be broken down into what you want to achieve. So 75% conditioning, 25% strength, 100% strength, whatever it happens to be, to build that person into the athlete
relevant to them,
relevant to that task or that sport. Now, that could also come down to the fact that we could be talking about a professional cyclist that has a goal of competing in the Tour de France in 4 years. Okay, so you've got to have that end goal in mind and break the journey down into pieces that they can see and understand, as opposed to your traditional PT that rocks up and may write the session 7 minutes before the client arrives.
Yep.
Or if at all.
Classic.
One
what
of the
machine's available? Fuck it, let's do that one.
We're doing shoulder press. How good? Yeah. So I guess the first part, is the definition, and the second part is, firstly, what is strength? Now, for me, the ASCA defines strength as the ability to move an object or objects quickly, or in another way, I guess, the density of that object. So therefore, how heavy it is.
Right.
So in a nutshell, what we're looking at there is strength can come in all different forays, I guess, muscular endurance right down to 1RM styles, max strength. So if we've got a power lifter, we're talking, max strength. If we've got someone who, like you guys, BJJ and fighting arts, we're looking towards more muscular endurance, but still potentially needing a one-out, all-out effort at certain points. But that may not occur in the first 1 second of a fight. So you need to still be able to get through the muscular endurance and then still explode.
Yeah.
So for me, the definition of strength is you need to be able to do whatever it is to achieve the goal of your sport.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
And so on that sort of little crossover of max strength, moving up the spectrum towards strength endurance, are we talking about energy systems? Does that cross into conditioning, or is it? Look, are you saying that it's kind of one of the same?
Yeah, look, it's I guess 20 odd years ago when I did my first level 1 strength and conditioning course, and I was in the middle of my exercise sports science degree, and I thought I knew it all. I would have told you that they were polar opposites, and they were one was one was in the kitchen and one was in the garage. They were that far apart, but very simply, over the years, I've realised that each works with each other. There's a definite synergy between both systems, and that means that we need to understand what each person needs, the requirements of that sport. If we get a rugby league player, right, the chance of them still having to run as fast in the 80th minute as the first minute is still pretty high. Now, that may not occur, because obviously if you've played 80 minutes of footy, you're going to be most definitely more fatigued. But what if that's what the game requires?
Yeah.
So actually just on that, I'll just throw an interesting stat up. Last year in the NRL, max speed was only reached by 2 players at all in the whole NRL season. Now, the reason that statement stands true is this. Okay, so to reach your maximum speed, you basically need to do a 10 to 15 minute warm-up and then sprint flat out for over 75 metres to get to that max speed. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, if I go and do a 30-minute warm-up with my team and then go to the footy field, well, there's probably a chance that I'm already past being able to reach my max speed.
You're a bit fatigued.
And then secondly, how are you going to get to a point where you've got to run almost 100 metres.
The whole field.
Dead straight.
So how do you know who that was, and how did they figure that out?
Everyone wears GPS now. So and I don't know whether
every game, every
single
person.
player, there is no fail in that.
So they've got data on the whole
100%.
I've seen that little
every training session.
Wow.
Even me at Randwick, I had I'll bring that up.
So confusing.
So even last year at Randwick, Joey came down and did a couple of sessions for my Randwick Rugby Club last year, and so I had the boys with GPS during training and every game for first grade.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. That's where all the stats come up, like meters gained.
Yeah, correct.
Hit-ups and maybe not hit-ups. Yeah, right.
Yeah, hit-ups because you can check terminal velocity, so when an impact is made, and how many G-forces, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But on the Telstra tracker thing, so I saw during the State of Origin.
Yeah, that's when I saw it.
They had, Josh had a car hit X. Maybe it was, I can't remember what speed it was. Might have been 32 k's an hour. It was fast. But interesting. One of the key points there is if he were to run a 100-metre sprint as a sprinter, it'd be a much faster, not necessarily much faster because the type of training they do keeps their muscular endurance high to get to that point. So So sorry for that little segue.
No, I like that. But so I guess your point there is that if you're talking about a powerlifter whose maximal strength is their goal, that's the nature of their sport.
Yep.
You're talking about a football player. Making them better at sprinting is going to help, but they don't necessarily need to be able to express their max speed.
No.
So then there's other other training elements you're looking at.
And if we spin this back to the topic of strength, which is obviously what we're designed around talking around today, it's the same reason we only test once every 4 to 6 weeks, right? And it's the same reason that in a NRL or a rugby sense, that most of the time you're probably going to be doing, sets of 6 to 12, because muscular endurance or muscular durability during season is more important because you're going to have to make 5-10 hit-ups a game. You're going to have to do, 30-odd tackles, et cetera, et cetera. So you need to be able, that repeatability, that actual impact that you go over and over again. So strength is relative, but also totally important to each individual sport, that you understand what type of strength you're trying to work on.
That makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
So you guys would test every 4 to 6 weeks, and you would test in that sort of rep range, 6 to 12 reps?
No.
Not necessarily?
So testing still comes down. So you still want to test your maxes, but you want to have a muscular endurance test as well.
Right.
So for example, and this is just a very simplistic way to explain it to everyone. So for my predominant testing, you might have a 1RM power clean, so therefore I get power production out of the way, a 1RM bench press, a 1RM chin up, and then I might have muscular endurance testing of something like 75% of your body weight bench pull, or something,
max reps
or push-ups or something along those lines, just to sort of, give your listeners a bit of an understanding of how that might potentially work.
So those NRL combines doing the max bench press?
Yeah.
Seen that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. He's got a whole team around them just cheering them on.
Yeah.
And of course, I've only seen the videos that pop up. So it's the guys that are pushing past 50 reps.
Yeah, well, I had the luck very early. I shouldn't say luck. I created it, so it wasn't luck. I created the opportunity to go to the NFL Combine in 1999.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love watching that, man.
Yeah, a guy by the name of Mike Boyle. So for any coaches out there that are listening to this podcast or alternatively super athletic, super keen on understanding, more about athletic development, Mike Boyle's strength in the US. So I went to his internship get used and abused to learn the ins and outs of some of the systems.
Clean the toilets, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, man,
I'll show you my program.
We did everything.
Oh, wow.
Speaking
of which, we're running an internship soon. If you want to clean toilets, learn some shit, come down.
Pardon the pun, clean toilets and learn some shit. Very, very simply, when I got over there, one of the obviously I was interested in the max strength stuff, but what you don't see is what happens in the lead up to that combine. So he took, I think the intake was 30 guys to train them for 6 weeks to lead into the NFL Combine, right? And this is a big deal. So he charges nothing. But if you get into the NFL, 10% of your first year salary becomes his.
Holy shit.
Now, that is a very, very, very standard model.
That's a good model.
It's
if you can produce a result.
Yeah. So all technically he has to do is produce, I think I did the maths back then, it was like 1 every 4 years.
Wow.
And it was well worth it.
Because their initial contracts are in the millions?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. As opposed to here, the NRL minimum salary is $68,000, I think. Whereas I think the NFL minimum salary this year is 1.35.
Wow. That just comes down to the amount of supporters they have and how much income it generates?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
That's cool. That's cool.
And they've got fuck all sports compared to us, which is genius modelling rather than what we do, where we've got 357,000 fucking sports, and
we're okay at all of them.
We're okay at all of them, but the biggest problem is that means the sponsor dollars have got to stretch that far as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, huh?
So yeah,
I remember, just an interesting side note. My cousin, my family's they're pretty into rugby league. They've just always been fans of watching it. And my cousin was freaking out because his daughter came home one day. She goes to school, maybe over in the eastern suburbs somewhere, and she had a little AFL ball and she was like punting it around the house.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where'd you learn to do that? Where'd you get the ball?" And she was like, "Oh, the Swans came to our school today."
Yeah.
And he's like, "And what did they do?" And she's like, "Oh, we got to play with them and meet them, and they showed us how to like punt the ball, and then they signed some shit, like gave us some stuff, and she was in love with it, right? Like it was an awesome day."
Yep.
And I don't know if he looked into it or if he just spoke to some people, but he found out that the Swans, they visit something like 100 schools every year within the Sydney area.
Yep.
And like NRL teams like go to 2.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck. And it just, from a business model perspective, you could see that AFL was just, they had a better design.
Yeah. The AFL Auskick program sees, I think it's 120,000 kids. The NRL do a schools program every year where one day all of the NRL clubs have to go to about 4 or 5 schools in a day, right? They see about 80 kids each, 100 kids each club.
Wow.
Right, there's 12 clubs, it's 1,200 kids.
Why do they drop the ball so much on that one? Like
it's just financial, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is that because AFL started technically as a Victorian sport, and South Australia, but technically Victorian. So the business modelling was set around a state model, right? So they had one sport that dominated. Basically nothing else existed down there, right? So unlike here in Sydney-based, we have probably, I think Sydney has 38 professional sports teams. Now, Melbourne has 20 and 15 of them are AFL teams. So,
you're saying 38, we got 38, and that's across everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And that's full-time professional, whereas like things like, like the Sydney Comets basketball team are not full-time professional, whereas the NBL teams are.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it?
And I've probably got my numbers wrong, but I'm pretty close.
Get your gist, though.
Yeah.
So, man, actually, Paulie, could you hook me up some more coffee, bro?
Stand by.
We're drinking the delicious filter brew from Tree over at Panavore today. Check them out on Pagewood. They sponsor every app. And just because Clint introduced me to this, I thought today would be the right day to do it. We're having cream in our coffee. Man, you put me onto that all those years ago. What was tell us why? And we're talking just like a little carton of pure cream.
Yeah.
Pour a little bit in, stir it.
Yep.
What's the reason?
So basically, you add fat to coffee, and it slows down the absorption and allows you to actually process the caffeine better. So, and also it tastes fucking delicious.
Tastes good, man.
Cream tastes good.
Yeah. So, I drank that cup in about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, Paulie's just thankfully pumped me across a little bit more as well. So I'm a very happy man right now. And I must admit, I popped this up on my Insta. The boys have dropped me in the Little Miss Princess mug. So I'm super stoked to have the ability to drink out of a wonderful little mug here.
That's right, bro. Jungle Brothers is all inclusive.
So yeah, but so back to the topic of strength. I guess the next part to sort of jump on is realistically about how to work out what type of strength you need for your sport, and also why strength is important for the everyday human being. But I guess, using my experience in sport and having the luck, I guess, to have worked across so many different sports over the years, I think the big point that I'd like to make to you guys and to your listeners is what I have been lucky enough to witness over the years is that the type of strength that you have carries over into everyday life. And it's you can talk about it, the metaphor, of being strong and being healthy and so on and so forth. But realistically, I've seen this occur time and time again. The not just the strongest people in the room, but the people that delve into their strength training and get moving better are the ones that have a better social life, have a better family life, have a overall better outlook at life, and are probably more open-minded to a lot of things as well. So, there's definitely that mental strength that comes down to the fact that a lot of us use physical strength as part of that as a daily basis, and I certainly see that in a lot of the guys that I've coached over the years. When they've come upon difficult times, whether it's been through disease or sickness or anything with family based and those kind of things, they're the ones that people really lean on. So it's not just about the physical nature of strength; it's what that actually does to you, because you set a goal to achieve something, go after it, and really push through those boundaries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it kind of becomes a bit of a metaphor for life. Yeah, it's true, right? Yep. And I agree with that. So all right. So then let's on that strength piece. So we you kind of defined it as your ability to move something at speed or to move the thing to move a load, to shift a load. What does that mean for? Because here's the I'm trying to think of like the everyday person who comes. We get someone that comes to the gym. Yeah. And you don't often have a chat with people who are inquiring about training and they say, I want to become stronger. Yeah. They will tell you, I want to get fitter. Yep. Or I want to maintain. We talk about this one a bit. People want to maintain. Yeah, love that one.
While I'm at it, I'll tone.
Yeah. And then you get like, I don't know, it's usually fitness, right? Sure. And so I guess what that points to is that people don't really know what they want. They just know that they want to be in better shape. Yeah. Yep. And they're like, I guess that means fit and, let's do it. Yeah. What is strength to that person? What does it mean to them?
All right. So the first thing that I want to bring up there is definitely how to find your underlying needs. And obviously I've been asked 100 times, I've asked 100 times. So what are your goals? What do you want to achieve?
Probably more than 100 times.
Yeah, probably 100 times.
Probably 100 times.
Yeah. But I think the really clear part to this, and I learned this only very recently that I was accidentally doing this. I don't rest with an answer until I'm shit sure of what that means. So if somebody says to me, I want to get fitter, okay, what does that look like? And if they still give me a shitty answer, okay, can you be more clear on that? Can you give me an example? Can you run through me exactly what that means to you? So, if Ma and Pa Kettle come in and they want to be fitter to run around with their kids and play soccer and do whatever, give me the examples you want to be able to do. Okay, well, what is running around with your kids playing soccer mean? I interestingly watched a thing about quitting smoking on before the State of Origin recently. Michael Ennis was talking about the fact that his dad would only be able to run around with him and for like 5 minutes because he was a smoker, right? He'd have to sit down while him and his brother continued to play footy, blah, blah, blah. And whilst in the back of my mind I was thinking about the smoking thing, the forefront of my mind was like, shit, I wonder what, if I'd sat down with Michael Ennis's dad, he would have said was important to him, right? So it made me start going, okay, so what questions would I have asked him? Now, I tell people all the time, and this is for PTs and strength coaches and movement coaches out there, make sure you are clear.
Thank you for acknowledging the movement coaches.
Absolutely. It's making sure you are so crystal clear on that person's goal. And if you're not, keep pushing. Open the lines of communication, get more questions in, and make sure they're open-ended questions so they've got to answer.
Yes.
Okay? Because honestly, what I've found over the years, and there was an amazing example of this in 2011. There was a study done in the US around why people left their personal trainers. And the reason that people left their personal trainers is because the majority reason that people left personal trainers was that the personal trainer's goal became more important than the client's. Right? So, and we talked about this again off air. If somebody turns up here and says to you, I just want to move, right? That's fine. That's okay. That's a shitty goal, but that's okay, right? But if they want to move and they still want to be able to have a beer every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, well, that's also okay, but at least that's a slightly more clear goal.
Yes.
Okay? So keep pushing that down the track and find out what they really mean by that. If they don't want to lose 1 kilo, well, then that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they still want to pay you to train them, then sweet. Give them what they want, okay? Just because someone isn't 6% body fat, ripped to shreds and doing bar muscle ups, doesn't fucking matter if that's not their goddamn goal, okay? And I think coaches get caught up in it, and I see this especially with the CrossFit world. If someone can't do a muscle up, they're trying to force them how to do a muscle up. Okay?
You just need more bands.
Yeah, of course. You need something, right?
Yeah. Let's get some boxes over here and some bands.
If that's not important to the client, then it shouldn't matter to the coach.
Can I get some hands on this client?
Absolutely, just throw them up there for God's sake. They've got one. But yeah, so clearly for me, it's around knowing what that person wants, and coming back to the strength topic. If somebody wants to be able to lift a log, well then help them lift a log, teach them correct technique, show them what needs to be done. But if somebody never wants to worry about doing that, well, then make sure that the training replicates what they're trying to achieve.
Yes. Well, then that brings me to a point which is, with all due respect to the individuals that don't know what they need, right? A lot of the time, and so for us, it's like cool. I definitely think I could dig deeper sometimes. I know that I just go, okay, cool, let's move on.
Yeah.
But it's a really good point you make, is to keep scraping away until you get to the thing that they really desire.
But maybe the second part of that too is, Joey, watch what they're naturally attracted to, right? So as I walked in the front doors here, of course, I did my normal thing. I had a look at the little garden that you guys have got going downstairs, but I also looked at the timetable, right? And I was visually impacted by certain words. Some of them I migrated more towards because they made more sense to me or they were of more interest. So ask that question.
Yeah, right.
Oh, which of our classes are you interested in?
Yes.
Right, and they're going to say whatever, right? But the point is...
It's kind of like a car salesman in a bit.
Absolutely.
Which car's taking your fancy
today?
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing is that's there for a reason, and we all do it, Like, we walk into a room and we notice something and we're visually attracted to it, So there's...
Well, you are because you're single now.
Yeah, correct. But there's definitely things that you just automatically go to. So it's definitely about that when it comes down to it. And, again, migrating this back to strength, but as you can very easily tell, the topic of strength gets swallowed up by the topic of what you're actually wanting to achieve in life, right? But realistically, and looking at what you guys do here and what I do in at Lift, the type of strength that you're looking at still has to suit what you're trying to achieve. Now, if somebody comes to you and says, I don't really know what I want to achieve, well, that's okay. But don't be afraid to revisit that in 6 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've now done 6 weeks of classes. What do you think's happening? What are you enjoying?
Where's your you've had a bit of time to get inspired.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, look, for us, that's sort of I think a lot of people don't know what they want when they come in here because there's so much going on.
Sure.
And so they're like, well, fuck, I don't know. I just want to kind of be able to do all that stuff. that you guys put out on Instagram. It's like, all right, well, look, that's cool. Let's just do it.
Yep.
Get you started, and then let's catch up in a month and see where your head's at.
Cool.
But, you know, even on that, like, you know, our name is Jungle Brothers Strength and Movement, right?
Yes.
And we, from the beginning, we're like, all right, like we love the movement thing, and that's been a big part of our journey as coaches and as, you know, whatever athletes or movers ourselves. But we're not dedicated movement people.
Yes.
We're also like really like strength as a modality of training. And if we kind of try to create an image for people, let's talk like squatting and deadlifting and pull-ups and push-ups.
Traditional-ish style movements.
Yeah, basic stuff, right? Gets you big and strong.
Yeah.
That stuff all has a part in most of the movement culture.
Correct.
Somewhere, right?
Correct.
However, something that I've noticed is that the movement culture largely is dictated by a few key individuals.
Sure.
So, you know, like Ido Portal is most definitely the easiest identifiable leader of the thing.
Yep.
And he was once very into strength training.
Yes.
And as a result of that, all of his students were doing a shitload of strength training.
Sure.
He now is not as into that.
Yep.
He's aged a bit. Yep. His body is not what it was. He's still a fucking beast from everything I can tell. But what I'm getting at is the way he teaches and the content he teaches now at his workshops is very different. So you get these people in that culture who have come in at a later stage, and they didn't know about all the heavy deads and the pushes and pulls and all that, and they're just doing the funky arm stuff and crawling around on the ground and whatever, which is all great stuff. But fuck, some of these people just need to be bigger and stronger
first.
So, you know, and so we recognized that a long time ago, and we're like, for whatever it is that we want to do with the people that come in here, whether we want them to do BJJ or we want them to do our handstand class, they need to just be fucking strong to a level first. And that comes about by just some simple strength training.
Yeah, look, and I think, you know, that fitter, faster, stronger still to this day falls in as a foundation. You know, Dan Baker, who's the president of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, says that no good program won't have dead, squat, bench, and pull up. If it doesn't have those, it's not a good program.
Yeah, right.
Right? Now, he doesn't say that means you need to be crushing a 1RM 200 keg squat, right? He says squat, dead, bench, pull.
At some level.
At some level, right? Foundation style movements or baseline or whatever wording you want to attach to you know, the front of this discussion around what needs to be included is you need to be able to move well. Okay? Now, if you're a bodybuilder, you don't. Okay, it might fuck you later on, but that's too fit to fuck all of my problem. You'll just end up, you know, coming here to get fixed down the track, right? But, you know, and interesting, I had a really good conversation with someone that you know yesterday, Joey, Chad Rogers. So Big Chad's you know, living in sunny Thailand these days. He's doing a shit ton of online coaching, and we were having a conversation about, and of all things, thumbless grip.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Chad,
like suicide grip?
Yeah, suicide grip, right? But for shoulder press.
Okay.
And for bench press. Now, the reason that he was bringing that up is basically he wanted to know that if you did an EMG study, so electromagnograph, which, you know, checks how much muscular contraction you have. If you had a suicide grip, so I'm probably getting a little deep here, but you'll be able to pick this up, and I'll drop it to a level that makes sense to everyone. So if you hold the bar or a dumbbell with a closed grip, which means you're gripping the entire way around that,
wrapping the thumb
around. So if you can imagine making a circle with your thumb and your first finger, okay, and wrapping around the bar and squeezing as tight as fuck. Or popping that thumb back out and holding in a suicide grip, which is kind of pretending that you're making a reverse C shape or a backwards C shape with your hand and try and do the same movement. Now, bodybuilders will use that thumbless or suicide grip to get, I guess, more muscular contraction by the force that is consumed down through the hand,
right,
in a shoulder press. So his discussion was that there would be a difference between how much a term called irradiation, which is how much actual force and pressure you're applying through the central nervous system by squeezing around that bar, in effect, closed circuit style, movement pattern, as opposed to the open style, having to do that. Now, the reason we were having that discussion is because that would technically change based on if you get an untrained person or someone who's been training for 20 years, you would get a different reading because the person who's been training for 20 years has the experience and understanding of how to manage that barbell or that dumbbell. Someone who's just walked into the gym, good luck trying to teach them something like that. And I'm sure you guys know this with any of the false grip style stuff with your gymnastic movements, right? It's fucking hard to learn.
Yeah.
Right. So
very abstract,
but also from a pure left side of the brain, right side of the brain modality, you're looking and thinking about a totally different thing rather than what is coming natural to you, which is grip and rip. Right. So we are, from the time we're taught to walk, we grab things in that closed circuit. We grab right around it to get what we believe is the best possible grip.
Is that right? Is that how babies grab stuff?
That, yeah. So they close that off because your central nervous system then has a touch point. So the nerves in the end of your fingers will, and obviously I'm making this movement with my hands. We don't have a camera here, but every time the end of your thumb touches the end of your fingers, your central nervous system acknowledges that there is that touch, as opposed to holding it open and there is no touch. Right, so it can't acknowledge where it's going to.
Yes.
Okay. So if you think about it conceptually, the difference in the type of strength that a bodybuilder needs and the type of strength that a powerlifter needs comes down to how those movements apply.
Right.
Right. So leading back to what Chad and I were talking about, does it matter? Well, it matters in the sense that every single time you do a study, whether it be on a particular style of running, a lift, gymnastic movements, it doesn't matter what the test is on, you have a control group big enough to cut out the outliers. So what we were talking about and what heavy discussion was around is how do you eliminate some of those things? Now, going back to the topic of strength, when we do a strength testing day here at Jungle Brothers or me at Lift, I'm trying to replicate the tests as close to possible as the conditions that person was under the last time they tested. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for example, if I test someone at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the next time I test them, I want to test them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the same day of that week.
Yeah.
Right? So, because if I test someone at 6 a.m. on week 1 of their program, they've had no meals, they've had 4 hours sleep, and they've smashed 4 coffees to come in to do their testing session.
Breakfast of champions.
And then the next time, 6 weeks later, that I test them at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They've had amazing food all day long. They've had 9 hours sleep that night. They've had a wonderful evening with their respective other partner, and they've released some good growth hormone. And basically, the whole concept changes, right? So you must try and eliminate as many of those outstanding or outlying factors when it comes to strength testing, physical testing of any nature. So
I tested this week, coincidentally.
Interesting.
I tested I wanted to work on some lower body power.
Yep, cool.
And so I built a little program that I've been following for 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
There was a week in the middle there that wasn't so on point. But the test I did was a box jump.
Yep.
So I tested max box jump 6 weeks ago.
Sure.
And I got to, whatever it was, a meter something, but it was a box on the high end, and then I had 4 20 kilo plates, and then a 1 10 kilo plate, so 4.5 plates.
Cool.
And I got a rep, and that felt fine. And then for the 6 weeks following, I did a bunch of speed squats at percentages that went up, and then on the last week I used some bands to add a bit of just a bit of extra toughness, I guess, at the top end of the squat. And I did heaps of jumping, as my accessory work. And I only did that once a week.
Sure.
but I'm like, it's cool. Like it should be enough to get a response. Anyway, on Wednesday morning, which was the same morning I tested on 6 weeks ago, I came in and I set the boxes up and did my warm up and, got my glutes active, did some jumping and tested. And instead of the 4.5 plates, I got to 3 plates.
Yeah, right.
I fucking came so far under.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, and it's almost like I knew it was going to happen too.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, fuck. And I tried it. I think I put the half plate onto the third, and I'm like, I looked at it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm jumping on that today.
Yeah, wow.
So you got, from 4 and
4.5 down to 3.
So what's that, like 7.5 centimeters, 10 centimeters less?
Probably about 13 centimeters, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And and I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. But the other thing is that the night before, we've gone kind of I train jiu-jitsu with over at Alliance, and my coach and we've ramped up our sessions with each other.
Got it.
And we go to fucking war.
Cool.
And we went to war we had a 20-minute round to open.
Yeah, wow.
And then I did 2 10-minute rounds with lower belts, and then we did another 10-minute round at the end. It was 50 minutes.
50 minutes
50 minutes with 1 minute breaks.
Shit.
And I was fucking smoked. and then, slept 7 hours and then came in and tried to jump.
Yeah, wow.
And so I'm obviously aware of, the potential of what may have resulted in the negative result.
But there's 2 things there. So now I would have told you that 6 times isn't enough to elicit a response.
Right.
I would have said 12 to 18 minimum.
In terms of
so
exposure
you did 6
to
sessions over 6 weeks of that type of movement to therefore, you said you just did a shit ton of jumping. Well, okay, let's just flip that back to BJJ for just a simple discussion, right? How much sparring did you do in the last week?
This week?
Yeah.
2 session, 2 classes.
Just give me roughly.
Let's say with an hour of sparring in each class.
Okay. So do you expect that would have made you better at sparring?
Only just.
So we're going to say 0.5%, 1% maybe. So 2 hours elicits 0.5% or 1%, but you thought that 1 hour a week was going to get you a significant improvement in your jumping.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so putting this back into relative terms, you're a dick. So I think one of the things that we forget.
I like this guy, Joe.
Yeah, spade's a spade around here, son.
Sophie, lock that door.
I think one of the things that we generally forget is that our training volume, our training experience, our time under tension, whatever terms you want to use and whatever elements you want to add to this discussion, the response that you get is directly equal to what you do. Okay? So if I drink 10 coffees, the response that I get from 10 coffees is directly equal to what I drank. Right? So it's exactly the same in training. If I do 10 times the amount, okay, now, not 10 times the amount straight, of course, either here. This is split up over the course of a training week, etc. You are going to get a better response than doing it once.
Yes.
Right? So if you'd said to me I was squatting on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, and I was doing speed squats, I was doing box squats, I was doing, single leg jumps, I was doing double footed jumps, I was doing bounds, I was doing whatever, then I would have said, oh, okay, Joey, it sounds like you've done enough to elicit a response. Should we have gotten a response? So therefore, listening to the program you wrote and the result you got, you actually got what you probably deserved. Okay, so and this is the thing, right? Like this is coach talking to a coach here, right? Like, and you would never have done that for your clients. You would have said, no, that's not enough to elicit the response that you're actually wanting to achieve. But when we look at ourselves, we look at the experienced person who's got enough training age, who's got the volume through them. I can get that.
Yeah, my 2 strength days a week. I'm like, I
got
cool.
this.
Yeah, one day lower body, one day upper.
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You're spot on. Tell me what the. So you obviously have in your mind a requisite amount of volume or exposure in order to elicit, the physiological response. And so when you say 12 to 18 sessions, are you looking at that in terms of the amount of repetitions you tend to get in a session, or are you looking at it just in terms of time?
Okay, so I'm going to be as specific as I can be with this, but I'm also going to be really open and honest and say, and I said this prior to us having this podcast, I've made the comment that some of the experiences that I have dictate the outcome of the answer that I'm going to give. Now, what I mean by that is very simple, that I have had a methodology, a thought, a concept. I've then gone and practiced it. It hasn't come to fruition because it was a shit theory. So therefore, that's gone by the wayside. Or something else. I've had a theory. I've put it into practice. I've then realised it's going to work. So I've done the research on it and worked out why it works. So just humour me in the sense that the experiences that I'm going to talk about are due to the fact of me having done these for years and years and years to get that idea to therefore lead into the research, to therefore lead into practice, right? So if I say to you, how long does it take, how many times do you need to do something to form a habit? Most of us would run with the research that we've been told of roughly 21 times of doing something. So if you just use that exact same terminology, if you want a response, if you don't do something roughly 21 times, it's not a habit, so to speak.
Right.
So what you're asking is you want to jump higher, so therefore have you done enough of that habit-forming behaviour to be able to result in jumping higher? Now, you're telling me that you did 6, and I'm telling you 21 is a minimum in the habit-forming area. So you probably weren't even in a mental state that you thought you were going to be able to jump that because you hadn't formed a habit well enough to put yourself in a position, right? So you weren't even mentally prepared for that.
I was doubting.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Okay, so there's the first part. The second part is that we all know that if I do 1 squat in a session or I do 100 squats in a session, obviously the number of repetitions will therefore create that, right? And, rocking a Michael Jordan analogy, he wrote once that he'd missed 47,000 shots. Now, I haven't even taken 47,000 shots of a basketball, right? And the dude's missed that many, right? And he's got a success rate of like 84% or something insane like that. So therefore, how many shots has he actually taken? So if we scale that back to what we're talking about here with strength training, how many repetitions have you really done?
Yes.
Okay. And if you were doing 6 sets of 6 per se, so you're running 36 reps a week, okay, and you think that that's going to elicit a response, come on, man. If you run 1 rep of 100 metres a week and think that you're going to run a better 100 metres in a year's time, good luck. Okay, that's not enough training enough training to get the response you're looking at. So for me, from an experience factor, I would say to you, if you wanted to elicit a response in a 6-week period, you probably needed to be squatting 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. You probably needed to be jumping 3 times a week. And those sessions probably needed to pretty much consist of just that. Squat, jump, squat, jump, squat, jump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or could you stretch it out, go 2 sessions a week and do it for 12 weeks?
Hell yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah. Like, again, you're looking at how does that fit your sport.
Yep.
Right? And if it doesn't fit your sport, then shit anyway. So
I just wanted to do it to make my backflips better.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, look, and okay, so then that leads down to the next question. Why does vertical jumping make a backflip better? And where did you get that idea?
Well, the higher you can jump, the easier it is to rotate.
Okay. So is your time better spent jumping higher or rotating more?
6 of one, half dozen the other,
100%,
as I see it. Yeah.
And my point there is, for you, it might be based off of how many repetitions of jumping. But for Paulie or for me, it might be how my rotation is, right? So
yes.
Individually, you need different things. Now, this may have been the worst idea for you at this point in time, but the same training 6 weeks down the track, when you're not sparring, for 50 minutes with your coach the night before, might actually work. So the other thing that you've got to take into consideration...
I'm going to fucking prove it.
Yeah, exactly. Good, good. Well, you're going to get your mindset right now because you want to fucking prove it. There's the first point of difference, right? So when it comes to it is the rest of your training designed around that, or was it just to fit in with the rest of your training?
Yeah, fuck no.
Right.
It was like I get under the bar on a Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday morning's my day to do some lower body strength.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with that hour? Oh, fuck it. Let's jump higher.
Yeah, and so I would have said to you to start with, I would have said, okay, well, if you've got two sessions a week, I would be hitting full body on both days.
Yeah.
So that you could have got the extra in, Tuesday,
bit of exposure
Thursday,
twice a week.
Yeah, twice a week.
Yeah.
If you're not exposed to those stimulus, you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
But you were probably also still backflipping. You were probably also still doing a whole bunch of other things that complement that. And to sort of bring it back to the topic of strength, it's again the type of strength you require for the type of movement you're trying to achieve.
Yes.
Cool.
Makes sense, bro.
Cool.
Just a side note on that, if anyone wants to sign up to my online jumping program, runs for 21 weeks.
21 weeks.
That's for 6
Hey, and do the fucking work, all right?
You are not exposed to it 3 times a week. You are shit.
That's tough though when you're chasing multiple movements and
Yeah.
sports and things. Like, I just find it fascinating talking about different types of strength.
Yep.
Something I was reading recently, and I'm pretty new to the PT and the whole training game,
Yeah,
especially that strength and conditioning, that scientific side of things. But I'm fascinated with it because I come from a ball sports background,
Sure.
and I love performance.
Yep.
And with my own training, it's starting to become more and more relevant.
Yeah.
Because I learnt the basic strength way.
Yep.
Largely to Joey and T, thanks to them. And it's heavy lifting.
Yep.
And body weight, etc. But now getting more into the fighting thing, thinking about how am I spending my sessions and what's more useful for me. And I saw you doing your power stuff, and I'm like, that's totally what I thought I wanted to do years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And then I was like, learn the industry.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, I need to do heavy.
Yep.
And now I'm thinking, I just want to do power, and I'm enjoying listening to everything you're saying here, because
Sure.
all I'm thinking about is how I can get stronger and more powerful than Joe and T.
Love it.
But
Be born Fijian. Oh, wait, you were, bro.
Right.
Fuck.
Yeah, but it's fascinating because the types of strength.
Yep.
And I can't remember where I was reading it just recently. Yeah, the power.
Yep.
The speed strength.
Yep.
And the endurance strength. And I started doing Muay Thai and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's very different. It's very different. And I just recently kind of upped my training to like sparring and pads
Yep.
and otherwise to twice a week.
Yep.
I also am pretty busy, and I can only
Sure.
reserve. I've been reserving one session a week for it, and then it's slowly creeped to 2. But since
Yep.
it creeped to 2, everything has just gone up so
Yeah.
quickly.
Exponential growth.
And even my freaking push-pull work, it's not even relative to it.
It is.
Because I hadn't been doing lots of cardio and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just helped all of my other strength gains straight away, in a matter of 2-3 weeks.
Everything complements one another, right? But there's a certain point where it starts to detract too, right? So if I'm doing 75% of my training cardiovascularly, well, the obviously the top end strength stuff is going to fall apart. But if I'm doing the opposite, if I'm doing 75% strength work and I'm only doing 25% cardio, well, obviously then the cardio starts falling down. So the point is, it just has to suit what your requirements are for that particular event. And look, it's always going to be the way that trying to get that balance right is one of the hardest things that any one of us ever find, whether it's the balance between how much strength, how much conditioning, how much recovery,
skill work,
right?
Time to
I'm a massive advocate for the recovery element. Like when I was a wee pup in this industry, I thought that recovery was sleep, and now I have a recovery system for every single one of my athletes, every single one of my PTs. They need to do a 10-point recovery system, which is, I'm more than happy to drop it to you guys. So you
starts
can
on Friday Arvos at 4 p.m.
4
right?
p.m. with a beer in hand, absolutely.
Beer and foam roller,
100%. So but there's things that they have to achieve before I'll let them train, because to me, the recovery, you can't overtrain, in my opinion. You can only under-recover.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, of course, you can overtrain in the sense that, if you're doing 20 hours a day, you're going to overtrain. But what I mean by that is most people don't even have the ability to overtrain.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but they definitely have the ability to under-recover.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think most people
under-recover. They're walking around under-recover, aren't they?
Yeah,
non-trainers.
And we talk about this, sleep is the mythical beast in the fitness industry, I remember, wearing it like a badge of honor, how many PT sessions I'd done and how little sleep I'd had, and I was a champ, Coffee, the breakfast of champions, we talked about it before, I can rock a 12 coffee day, there's no issue there, well, this is number 5. So,
fuck.
Yeah,
it's wild, man.
Yeah, look, I just think that, understanding the modality you're trying to create and the outcome or the result you want to achieve is the clear-cut winner to making sure your program, whether it's strength, conditioning, or whatever it happens to be, it definitely rocks the understanding and the breakdown of what you're trying to achieve in your programming.
Man, could you talk a little bit on, I wanted you to, and I know this is a big question, but I wanted to get a couple of templates or formats for strength training. And obviously, and like we know 5x5 and all that stuff, but there's people out there that are listening to this stuff going, oh, strength, okay, cool.
Yep.
Talking to those people, could you give me an example of like a template people could use, say, for a beginner and an intermediate?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think, and I've been asked this question on podcasts before, and I'm really going to be slightly critical of my own answer, right? So, but the good old school 5x5 method of training, 5 sets, 5 reps, trying to hit sort of 85 to 90% of your max for 5 reps, is probably still the greatest researched template. Now, does that mean it's the best? Not necessarily. It just means it's the best researched.
Yeah.
And so therefore we have more results on it. Therefore we are more likely to achieve because therefore there's been more studies done on it. So, the 5x5 is a very traditional method of strength whereby you can rock it under 2 different principles. You can do full body or upper body, lower body style splits. And the idea would be that you look at each of the body parts and separate them. So if you were doing an upper body, you might do, your primary lifts might be your bench press, it might be your pull-up. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, and it depends on what your sport was. If it's a rugby league style sport, a rugby union, whatever it might be, you might be better off to choose things like bench press and pull-ups. Whereas if it's a fighting art, you might be better to choose something like a ring row, an inverted row, a bench pull, something that actually replicates more of that style of sport.
Yep.
Then when you move into the
bench pull is lying face down on a bench,
pulling from a bench, pulling from the floor up to your chest, so to speak.
Cool.
Then if you're looking at lower body stuff, you're definitely still looking at your push movement of your squat and your pull movement of a deadlift. Or hinge pattern, whatever you want to call it. But the clear winner there are the lifts designed around your sport? If you never have to load your back with a barbell, and if you never have to have huge impact of your shoulders, well, that might not be the smartest maneuver, And we talked about this yesterday again with Chad. In all of his online programming, he uses leg press over squatting. And the reason he does that is because it's safer, right? Someone can walk into a gym and load up a leg press and not have to really worry that much about technical elements.
Yeah,
because
mobility is not an issue.
Correct.
Balance.
And the leg press, falls into because of gravity, falls in a process where it runs along a track. So you can make very few mistakes or eliminate some of the mistakes that are available.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? I understand it conceptually from a bodybuilding perspective.
Yes.
Right? Which is what the big man was talking about. And I'm cool with that because that suits his sport.
Yes.
Cool? So, again, if you're going to try and compare apples and oranges, I don't want part of the conversation because it's stupid. Like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to compare bodybuilding and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know, I'm not going to give a BJJ fighter a leg press unless we're trying to put on huge amounts of muscle mass and he's already completely fucked and we're looking for a machine to get that last, you know, insulin or that last IGF-1 response out of his quads, you know. So for me, it comes down to, again, you know, looking at those strength templates, what do you have available to you, right? So... you know, if we're to walk downstairs, well, there's no point having a leg press in a program, is it? Because there isn't one here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to also look at are the tests that you're looking for, or the lifts that you're looking for equate to what you have available to you as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, talking to CrossFitters, you know, you're not going to put a leg extension in their program because it's not there.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the element of talking about the templating idea, I always look towards how many sessions that person's going to be able to achieve. And in this case, you know, in a 5x5 style modality, you want to be looking at minimum two of those strength sessions a week, whether it's upper body, lower body, or a full body split. It's fine, but you need to have that availability, right? If you're looking at an advanced lifter, you might be looking at a German volume style system, 10 by 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Some real serious volume gets, you know, hammered through in those kind of programs. And look, that's, again, another heavily researched methodology, right? Now, everything in between still works, people. You know, you might do a method where you do your first lift as a 5-repper and your second as a 10, wave loading methods. You know, there's a whole bunch of different methods that are available to you there. And talking about templating, you know, you need to know what your athletic development is to get to that point.
That's a good call. But the 5x5 is a clear easy
winner.
place to
clear
start.
Winner. Clear winner.
And for simplicity.
Yeah.
What do you think? I guess, you know, I wanted to sort of, I don't want to pick your brain too much more because I know you're already giving us time to be here. But I was trying to think of what the biggest myths are around strength training. And I was, we can hit pause while you go to the toilet.
Yeah, good.
Too much coffee, mate.
Yeah, too much coffee.
Go hit it up.
I was like, I don't want to start that question.
Yeah, man.
Bounce it off.
Do you want to keep talking?
Are we recording still?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's keep talking, bro. Well, it was cool how he ripped apart my my lower body power days.
Out of 28 episodes, I now know that it's all been worth it for that. That was hilarious.
You are a dick.
You're a dick.
Oh, thanks, Clint. No, it's good information. It's bang on. And I kind of knew it somewhere in there that I was like, this isn't really enough, but let's just fucking wing it anyway.
It's interesting the point that he made about he's a coach talking to another coach and how like a coach can see themselves different to how they see their client.
Yes.
But in reality, it's not.
You'd
never prescribe that to a client.
Totally.
And tell them that it's going to work.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
Or even believe it, you know. So,
yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. All my clients out there that I sent out that lower body program to, just don't open it yet. I'm going to make some changes. But yeah, totally, man. It's true, right? And it is interesting, I guess, probably for the listeners. But when you talk with someone like Clint, his head is just, he knows the science and he is deep in the science. We know the science, but we choose to not go too deep into it because we focus on other things. And we use that science, say, with our lift program. We use it in all of our programs. But we choose not to let that define what we do. But it is kind of cool, I think, for people listening to realize that, holy shit, there's some really basic parameters behind this stuff. It's not just picked out of the air. And, hey, we're going to do this for 15 minutes and, I am getting stronger. Like there's, it's based on, it makes me think, I did a Sambo, Sambo, the Russian martial art. I did a sports Sambo coaching course.
Yep.
Just a one-day thing out west with this little Russian guy called Dimitri. I'm now a Sambo coach.
No way.
As it happens. But this was years ago. But his English wasn't great.
No, you're kidding.
He was a classic little dude. And basically he came over from Russia with the goal of making Sambo a thing here.
Yep.
So the idea was to do this coaching course, give a bunch of like jiu-jitsu and judo people their certificates, and then hope that they would go and teach Sambo and it would become a sport. And he kept saying he would like say these really outlandish remarks about the science behind whatever he was talking about.
Yep.
Like they don't break fall, as an example. He's like, yes, when we fall, we tuck into a ball and you get thrown on the ground and it's safe. And then someone would challenge him, like a judo guy would be like, but isn't break falling, like when you hit the ground, isn't that supposed to be the safest way to fall? He said, no. We know that it's not because in Russia we have building for study this. He kept saying we have building for study these things. And his point was like, we have institutes.
Right.
Like organizations
we have
where people work and they study it. And I just loved that little description. Like, it's true though.
Yeah.
They have buildings for this shit. And that's just what we were touching on while you were downstairs was that like, the science is the science, and it's things change and we discover new things, but there is solid science that's been around for a long time that is still true today.
Yeah, look, and I talk about this all the time in my mentorship that everything changes. Right, but if you go back to old school Arnie bodybuilding days, right, the good old encyclopedia of bodybuilding from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I know is 100% over there because, let's face it, Arnie's God. There is very simple things that are still in that book today that reign supreme in the muscle building world. We may not all take as much gear as the big man has consumed in his life, but
all we can do is try.
There's your next goal, Joey. But I think the thing that keeps coming back over years is everything goes in cycles, right? So, when I first started in the industry, there was a leg extension machine in every single commercial facility, right? 10 years later, they were all out on the street being thrown out. No, you couldn't sell one if you had to for $5.
People someone busted up a knee or something.
100%, right? And they were saying, this is the sheer force that goes through the knee joint during a leg extension is the worst idea ever. Now, even as early as this morning, I was on the wonderful world of the Instagram, and I saw a good friend of mine, Mick Hughes, who is probably the primary ACL physio in Australia at the moment. He does the majority of the ACL research, and Mick was showing an isometric leg extension hold, sitting on a bench with a Swiss ball against the wall.
Yeah.
So it was a leg extension, but the leg wasn't actually extending. It was an isometric static hold.
Halfway.
Sort of about a quarter of the way, but it was just creating that tension through the knee joint, right? And in his post, he directly said, a leg extension will also work in this arena, but I'm trying to show coaches out there that don't have a leg extension machine or the ability to do that there's an option here for you.
That's cool.
Right? Now, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, talking about this science thing, right? The research showed that we should get rid of all leg extension machines 15 years ago. And now the research shows we need the fuckers back.
Yes.
Okay. So research changes, the technology around the research modality changes, and the exact topic of the research changes, right? What you have to remember when it comes down to this is you actually have to be open-minded enough to know that the research will change.
Yes.
So don't be a dick and just go, I read that, so that's all that it is
for the rest of my career.
For the rest of my career, right?
Yeah.
If I'd done that, I'd be sitting here,
You wouldn't be sitting here.
I wouldn't be sitting here. That's exactly right. So I think when it comes to that, you have to remember that, and this leads directly into the question that you're about to ask before I urgently needed to race downstairs and relieve oneself, that what are the biggest myths in the fitness industry? And that is the first one that I'm definitely going to charge in with is that there is no one method that works. There is a million ways to skin a cat per se. Okay, I'm not into skinning cats, but I don't like the little things anyway, but that's totally beside the point. But yeah, if you want to achieve fat loss, you can achieve it in 1,000 different ways. You want to achieve movement, you can achieve that in 1,000 different ways. Okay, there is no right and wrong. There will never be a right and wrong. There just is what you like more, what the coach likes more, what makes it stick. Okay, that's
with
the other
individual.
big thing. Yeah. If I don't fucking like it, man, I'm not turning up.
Yeah.
If I really like it, I'm going to turn up. 100%. I can spend hours and hours and hours on writing an amazing program. And that person could look at it and go, I fucking hate those exercises.
Yeah.
I go, oh, fuck, there we go. Now, that's a bit of a difference in the professional sport world. They'll just fucking shut up and do it, right? But if they loved every exercise, if they bought into your program, if they love what's going on and they get your understanding, man, they're in. You know, I finished a book a couple of weeks ago called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, it's about how to form habits.
I think I've read his blog before.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, mad blog, really cool. But he talks about how to form habits well, and one of the things that he says is when they studied all the Forbes 500 people and studied really successful people, and this goes straight back to professional sport, by the way. I'm just adding a little bit of context. That when they looked at those people weren't better at forming habits. They were just better at sticking to the habits that, even though they might have got a little bit boring, they knew what the outcome was, so they just got on with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes down to all of this chat, there's definitely some elements there that cross over. So, you know, we're talking about gym myths and you know, things that occur in the fitness industry that are, you know, that I'd love to get rid of, and that is that one method will work every time for everyone. That's just never going to happen.
Tell me, one of the big ones that I feel is quite relevant. I said before that people don't come into the gym and say they want to get strong. However, you do get now, which I'm really appreciative of, you get females.
Yes, thank you, social media.
Yeah, and they say, "Oh, I want to get strong." Sometimes, yeah, sometimes they say that. And you're like, oh, cool. Tell me more about that. Like, what's kind of igniting that for you? There's also I believe that for a lot of women, there's a connection between muscle growth and strength. It's like, but I don't want to get big.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Talk to me about this.
All right. So I guess the first element to explain to anyone is getting big is really fucking hard. Okay. To lose weight, you need to be in calorie deficit. To gain weight, you must be in calorie surplus. That's the first myth that we need to completely dispel. It doesn't matter whether you're vegan, fucking keto or whatever. You must be in either surplus to gain weight or deficit to lose weight.
Meaning you've got to be eating more calories than your body needs to maintain itself in order for it to grow bigger.
Perfect. Now, women have this distinct feeling that lifting big will put on muscle mass. Now, if they eat badly and a lot of food and their calories are high, they will put on muscle mass, okay? Now, we've been blessed with, you know, some amazing individuals on the wonderful world of the Instagram, and that show, you know, chicks lifting heavy that are still slim, lean, attractive. I'll use a shitty term, looking feminine.
Oh,
okay. And I'm not going to use that word. I want to vomit every time somebody says I want to be toned. But very simply, to get to that, there is still a shit ton of work required. And I always end up with that inevitable female that says, "Oh, but I build muscle mass really easy." Okay, now I've met one of those. Once.
Serena?
Well, no, but she was African American descent, and I swear she actually walked past weights and put on size.
Wow.
But that's one in my entire career, right? Now, I'm not saying that people can't put on muscle mass, but it's certainly much harder than most people believe. Okay?
Yes.
And just because you saw, you know, some chick that you follow on Instagram that, you know, has got a big ass, okay, most of that's fat people, okay? So let's just be pretty clear on that, okay? But, you know, you work something and it's going to grow eventually, right? So just be mindful of the fact that it's not a myth, but you definitely need to be in surplus to grow.
And being in surplus is not as easy as you would think.
Shit, no.
I mean, I know for myself it's fucking hard.
Hey, I've just I've got a young girl that's just come to see me about going on stage for the first time. Now, I'm
bodybuilding?
Yeah, bodybuilding. And I'm not, this is not a massive part of my world, of course. I like it and I dabble in it and have a bit of fun with some more biomechanical issues and help guys like Rawdon Dubois with some of his masters athletes around how to make those little biomechanical tweaks. But very simply, we were discussing this young girl, and she came to me and said, look, here's what I'm eating and here's my current weight. I want to go on stage. Now, she was consuming about somewhere in the vicinity of about 1,800 calories and she weighs 46 kilos. She needs to be about 55 to be on stage, and she needs to be 55 relatively lean. She is relatively lean because she's a former marathon runner. But she's going to have to put on like 7-8 kilos of mass. And I basically...
Muscle.
Yeah, pure muscle mass, like lean muscle mass, right? So,
which is fucking hard.
Well, bullshit.
It's hard for a 100 kilo anybody.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I've put her up to about, and by the way, with full consultation with my dietitian Peter Carriage, because guess fucking what? I'm a coach, not a fucking dietitian. I don't fucking write diets because I'm not a dickhead. Now, the other part of that is very clearly that I consulted with her, made sure that I was right where I was going to go with this. She made some solid adjustments, which is what a qualified dietitian does. And she's sitting at about 2,200 calories this week. She'll go to 23 next week, 24 the week after, then cut back to 22. We'll do that 3 cycles and we'll see where she's at. So in basically
she would be shoveling food in, right?
She's shoveling the fucking shit in, all dude. Day. Like, yeah, well, we've got to help her out with that because she is struggling to eat that. Like, she sent me a message after lunch yesterday. Her snack was 2 boiled eggs and a salad for a mid-morning snack. She said, Clint, I can't get through lunch. What the fuck am I going to do? Because, like, I'm full. It's a 46-kilo chick, dude. Like, and she wasn't training until 5 o'clock that afternoon. So she hadn't expended any major energy yet. And by the way, like, I've got her doing no cardio right now because we're trying to put on muscle mass. Like, she can't even afford... I'm not letting her walk to the train station, right? Like, I'm like, drive the fuck to the train station. You do not need to expend 1 extra calorie that I don't know about, okay? Because we can't. But simply for someone like her, this is going to be a hell of a process. Now, I'll be really truthful, and I'm never going to sit here and bullshit to anyone, but I've got no idea how much muscle mass she can put on in 16 weeks, right? But we're going to give it a red hot crack, okay? And that's the fun part of the experiment for me, because that's when, these interesting cases come to me. I call them my trouble children, right? I'll talk about another one of my trouble children in 2 secs. But, she came to me going, okay, well, is this possible? And I go, well, I'm not even fucking sure, to be honest, but let's give it a crack. Okay, so that's definitely how difficult it is for females to put on muscle mass.
To give people an idea, I know that for me, when I'm having a day where I'm not that planned around my food, I will probably end up eating around 2,500 calories. Like, if I'm just eating sort of 3 meals a day,
yeah,
and I'm a bit, and I'm not trying to eat a lot.
Yep.
If I just eat what's comfortable,
yep,
I probably eat about 2,500.
Yeah, cool.
And you said you're going to get her up to 2,400.
Yeah.
And I'm double her size.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is, I mean, you saw me last year when I was trying to bulk up a bit, and it worked. But fuck, I was eating like a pig, man. It was so unsustainable for me.
Well, I'm the lightest that I've been since year 7. So I'm rocking around at 89 kilos, which for me is baby weight. So... yeah, like, again, and I'm still sitting at about 2,300 calories a day as a normal BMR. So for me, that's an easy amount. But when I was, my normal sit around weight is around 98 kilos, and that's about 2,700 to maintain. So
decent.
Yeah.
My bro, we're going to wrap it there.
Yeah, cool.
Man, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem.
I mean, every time I talk to you, we could talk about so many things, and there's so much to get through. So it'd be cool to have you on again if you want to come down to the botany.
Absolutely love to. Love to.
from me personally, man, it's nice to be able to do this with you, and I it's a long time ago now that I first met you and worked under you at Anytime Fitness.
Yep.
But I'm appreciative of everything you did for me there.
Oh, thanks, man. I really, that's awesome to hear. And the respect is mutual, that's for sure. Not just for yourself, Joey, but also for the whole Jungle Brothers team. Big Jared Thatcher's just walked in and given me a little back slap, which shout out to the Thatch. But look, it's I think the big point that I want to sort of end on for you guys especially is strength is all relative, right? And whatever you want your strength to be, focus the fuck hard on it, okay? And I'm proud what you guys do for the industry. You know, the movement element of what's happening now is starting to creep into commercial facilities. Now, lift is not exactly your traditional, commercial facility, but I'm seeing people, in Fitness First doing some mad shit, that I'm really thankful of, because good movement patterns are still good movement patterns, and that can be a straight line movement pattern of a walking lunge, or that can be a back bend, or a whatever it happens to be. So, I'm really appreciative of what you guys are doing for the industry as well, and I hope that your members and the listeners to your podcast understand that this is an element that is going to grow on a daily basis. So, I'm stoked to be on the podcast, guys. Thank you very much.
Man, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Can you tell people, because you're doing a few things at the moment, where can people find you? You're running mentorships?
Yep. So a big chunk of my business over the last sort of 10 years has gone into the mentorship world, whereby I run an online mentorship and a face-to-face mentorship. I also run some workshops around Australia, and I will be venturing internationally this year, which is I'm pretty pumped about. I also do courses for the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, and I'm lucky enough that I've been selected to present at this year's ASCA workshop. And as recently as yesterday, I found out that the ASCA have selected me to go across to Japan and lecture at the Japanese Strength and Conditioning Association workshop or conference in December. So that's even just saying that, I just got goosebumps. I'm pretty pumped about that. And then the last thing, and probably the big change for me over the next sort of 6 to 12 months is going to be that I wrote a Cert 3, Cert 4 in personal training. Off air, I said to the boys that I spent a long time bagging this industry and bagging the trainers in it, and because of qualifications and so on and so forth, and the narrow-mindedness of some of the people in our industry. But I've decided to put my money where my mouth is in a big way. I've devoted a lot of my own personal cash to writing a Cert 3, Cert 4 course, and have developed my own registered training organisation, which will launch in about 6 to 8 weeks, God willing. So, that's me in a nutshell.
Where can people hook up with it or hook up with you?
Yeah, sure. Look, I guess, Facebook, Instagram are the two easiest modalities. Clint Hill or Clint Hill Strength. And then, of course, I also have, you can just jump on email, clint@hillstrengthandperformance.com.au. I'm always willing for a direct message, a chat, an email, whatever the case may be.
Slide into them DMs.
Slide into the DMs. Yeah, baby.
Sick, man. Thank you, bro.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, bro.